here comes Shiho. The Red Fox of the ring, Shiho. He's the heartbeat of pro wrestling society. There's no pro wrestling scene in Korea without Shiho.
That's very true. He's the number one man. But I think...
Jumping thrust kick by Shiho. He hit that on the chin. Is it Fox Bite time? Fox Bite by Shiho! It's over! Shiho beat Zicky Dice with the Fox Bite.
That was commentary of a pro wrestling match here in South Korea featuring Shiho, aka the Red Fox. Recently, I was invited by a close friend of mine to go see one of these pro wrestling events here in Korea. I didn't know that there was a pro wrestling scene here, so I went not knowing what to expect, but it's fair to say that I was blown away. It was exciting, fun, and the technical skill on show was beyond what I could have expected. So I'm delighted to say that for our Touch Base and Soul today, we have managed to get the Red Fox, Shiho himself, on the show. His real name is Mr. Donghee. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me.
As I mentioned, I had no idea there was a pro wrestling scene here in Korea. And I just have to say, you did an amazing job when I saw you.
Thank you.
How big is the pro wrestling scene here in Korea?
Well, when you talk about current pro wrestling scene, it's really, really weak. It's really, really dead. But it used to be really big from 70s to 90s. We had like lots of legendary Korean wrestler, brought in lots of Japanese wrestler, and we had a like big match that time. And that time after Korean War, people were depressed. People were feeling defeated, and we didn't really have any other entertainment at the time. Like 70 to 90, we didn't have a baseball, soccer. So before that, we had pro wrestling as a national sports. So it was normal for us to fill up like the sold out stadium with every month and with such a big caliber show.
Right, it was huge in Korea at the time.
Right, it used to be big time. Like the Korean people from 40s to like 70s, they all remember the old like glorious day of Korean pro wrestling.
There's that legendary fighter, Kim Il.
Yes, exactly, Kim Il, also known as Oki Kintaro in Japan, and legendary guy who was trained by Riki Dozan in Japan, who is also a founder of pro wrestling. So when he came back to Korea, he just made it really, really big.
Yeah, and I understand that President Park Chung-hee was a fan of pro wrestling at the time as well.
A famous story.
How did you get into wrestling then? Were you aware of the Korean wrestling from the past, or was it the American wrestling that we know nowadays that inspired you?
I would say American wrestling. Like for a generation like me, we don't really have a connection with old Korean pro wrestling because it all went downward spiral around 90s. So we don't really have a like memory about that. So back in 2000, like 2000 to 2010, there were like some kind of sensation about American pro wrestling, WWE in Korea. So every kid talked about WWE. Every kid talked about Hulk Hogan, Undertaker, Kane, Triple H, Stone Cold. So I was one of them, and I never thought I would be a wrestler. But around 2011, I found this like small pro wrestling team in Korea who's still trying to establish pro wrestling culture in South Korea. So it was my first time to go to the live pro wrestling show, not just like television show. So went there, saw this Korean pro wrestling guy, like indie guy, going to the top rope and just chanting his name to the crowd and just flipping himself to his enemy. And like, it was such a simple move. It was such a simple move that I've seen all the time in TV. But watching it for like live, for real, like I felt like I was watching like real superhero, like out of the cinema. So
right, and then right away, is that when you thought, I want to do that?
Yeah, exactly.
But then actually going to do that is a different step from actually thinking, oh, I might try that. How did you actually take that step to really try it firsthand?
So I was really skinny. Like even right now, I'm considered a really small wrestler, like compared to other average wrestler size. And I was way smaller than that. So they wanted me to work out, eat a lot to gain some more weight. And after that, they trained me with the like simple stuff like rolling, handstanding, all the basic footwork, all the mat workout to be a wrestler. They're like, people think we just do wrestling, and there's like not that many body mechanism inside it. But to be a wrestler, to be able to do any simple move, you have to be trained like from the simple step, like rolling, handstand, or how to take a bump correctly, how to protect your body.
But people in Korea, they knew how to do that already, or did you get like a trainer coming in? Because it's very technical. Unless you do it right, you can hurt yourself.
Yeah, it's really technical. Luckily, there were some wrestlers who came from different country to Korea, and they wanted to help us. They wanted to help us to learn properly. And so even I didn't go to the States or Japan or Mexico. Those countries are known as like the major pro wrestling country if you want to learn pro wrestling properly. In my case, I really couldn't go because of my study and career, but these wrestlers came to Korea first. So they taught me all this proper wrestling. So I can say I was really lucky.
Wow, and then you started doing it. What did your friends and family start saying about it when you started going to practice and going on shows like this?
My dad really like yelled at me, like didn't want me to go. My sister thought it was really stupid. My mom always worried about me, like whenever I came back home, like being bruised with scar. My ex-girlfriends, like she just couldn't watch me wrestling. Like whenever my opponent chopped me really hard on my chest, so my chest all get bruised and bleeding. And when I just came back home, and she just really couldn't.
Right, because even though we know wrestling is staged,
right,
but you still get physically hurt. There has to be a certain amount of physical kind of impact for it to work, right?
Absolutely. Like there's famous quote: "It's staged, it's scripted, but it's not fake. We're not lying."
I have to say that I actually met your mother that night. I went to the event. She was helping with ticketing on the door.
Yep.
I'm guessing that she's kind of given her blessing then.
Yeah, like a few years ago, she really couldn't watch me wrestling. I always asked her, why don't you come and, watch me having fun, watch me achieving my dream. She came one time, but she like started crying. She couldn't come after that. But these days, she was really just inspired about my passion and about my other wrestlers' passion. So she decided to help out in the business.
It's so great to see that she was there supporting you, but I have to say that she still can't bear to watch your fights, she told me.
Right.
And to be fair, even on that night, you actually got quite a nasty gash on your shoulder.
Yeah.
And you were bleeding. I could see the concern in your mother's eyes. It still must be difficult for her at times.
I mean, whenever she cries, whenever she told me she got really worried about me, at one side of me, I feel really bad, but the other side of me, my professional aspect, I feel actually good. Like it means, like if I made her worry, if I made her cry, it means it means I did like freaking good job. It means I really did good job as a wrestler because people felt my emotion. So
Oh, your poor mother. Anyway, but the thing is also, what about your colleagues? Because this isn't your main job. You have another job as well, right?
Right. My main job, I would say my day job is another my passion, translator. So I'm a translator and interpreter in the Korean Air Force, working with the U.S. Air Force closely. So
do they know what you do on weekends as well?
they didn't know. I tried to hide it.
You tried to hide it at first? Do they know now?
Because I didn't make a fuss about it, but recently I featured in a JTBC show with a Korean comedian called Lee Kyung-gyu. So with that case, I had to report to my headquarters. So they spread all the documents like, hey, this guy, this foreign officer translator is a wrestler.
What did they say? What did your colleagues say?
Well, they all came to me like, oh, Shiho. Oh, so your name is Shiho, huh? Your name is not Donghee anymore. So they started teasing me. One guy in another department came to me like, hey, can you give me an autograph? And I'm like,
are all the other wrestlers like you as well? They're working a regular, normal weekday job, and then just over weekends they go train and perform.
So unfortunately, right now the market is really small. Even we are trying really hard to expand that market, and we try to establish that market and the culture. Still, it's really like a baby step. Like it used to be really huge. The wrestler used to make lots of money in Korea, but not anymore. So everybody participate in the show, in the training as a concept of investment. So, of course, I mean, they all get paid. Don't get me wrong, but it's not that much money.
You can't live off it.
Right.
Yeah.
So they all have a day job, like an English teacher, and some run their own business, and some work in Samsung. Like there are so many.
Wow, there's some even who work in
Yeah.
conglomerates.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's kind of crazy. Like all those wrestlers, including me, we are from so many different backgrounds, so many racial career backgrounds. So
So they all do
Yeah.
it for the passion, including yourself.
Exactly.
And in fact, you are the one who founded the current wrestling league, should we say, the Pro Wrestling Society that we heard a clip from earlier. Can you tell us more about this organization and how you came about founding it?
So I wrestled until like for 7 months, for 7 years, and then there was a time that I started considering like maybe I should quit this wrestling because I have to think about my career. That was like 3 years ago. That was the time that I started my career as a warrant officer, as a translator in the military, and my first ideal was maybe I should go to the States or Japan, like major pro wrestling country, and maybe I can challenge myself as a wrestler, and I want to see how people there perceive me as a wrestler. But I just decided to stay in Korea because of my career, more realistic reason. So that kind of encouraged me, and there were not that many stages in Korea, and there were so many great Korean and American wrestler or any other international wrestler in Korea, but they couldn't wrestle because there were no stage.
Right.
So
you decided to make that stage
Okay.
for yourself and the others.
yeah, I have a confidence. Like I have confidence I can make this culture quite big, and I have amazing colleagues around me. So why don't I make a stage, and why don't I take some different approach from like old retro Korean pro wrestling? And our wrestling, PWS Pro Wrestling Society is, I can say, one and only, the first ever international taste pro wrestling company in Korea. Like it's very similar to those of WWE, World Wrestling, something, and it comprised of lots of international individuals from Korean wrestler, from Puerto Rican, American, Japanese, so many different wrestlers from different countries, and that really appealed to not only Korean fan but also foreign fans in Korea. So when you come to our show, it's very international. I think that's one of our big appeal, and we provide amazing story, amazing wrestler, like variety, amazing skill set, amazing storyline, and the new energy. Like when you come here, it's not about old wrestling. It's not really boring. People are stylish there. The vibe is stylish. So I really hope everybody come to our show and enjoy that vibe together.
Well, I would definitely say you're on the right path. I had an absolute blast at the last show.
Thank you.
And I had fun today as well. We've been speaking to pro wrestler Shiho, aka the Red Fox, who's also the founder of the Pro Wrestling Society here in Korea. Thank you for coming in today, and I look forward to the next event I go see.
Thank you for having me.